morning, I have the privilege of preaching the Word of God. And so if you're taking notes this morning, the title of the message is Interpreting Giants. Interpreting Giants. And we're going to open the scriptures in Numbers 13. In Numbers 13, we have two dudes, Caleb and Joshua, and they have been sent out on a mission to check out the promised land. Now, they're not sent out to see if it's good for them. No, this is God's promise for them. No, God has had this in mind for a long time. They have been delivered out of slavery in Egypt, and they are in between the promise and the promise fulfilled. But they're sent on a little spy mission. It's pretty cool. It's like Mission Impossible. There's a bunch of spies, and they go. In fact, we'll open the scriptures in Numbers chapter 13. It says this: see what kind of land they live in. Is it good or bad? Do their towns have walls, or are they unprotected like open camps? Is the soil fertile or poor? Are there many trees? Do your best to bring back samples of the crops you see. Who loves a sample? Free samples. How about that? Bring back some samples of the crops you see. It happened to be the season for harvesting the first ripe grapes. And then it goes on, and they bring back their report. And this is what their report says. We entered the land you sent us to explore, and it is indeed a bountiful country, a land flowing with milk and honey. Here is the kind of fruit it produces. But the people living there, they are powerful. And their towns are large and fortified. We even saw giants there, the descendants of Anak. The Amalekites lived in the Negev, and the Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites live in the hill country. The Canaanites live along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea and along the Jordan Valley. But Caleb tried to quiet the people as they stood before Moses. He's like, wow, this is not the picture I want to be painted. And he says this: let's go at once to take the land, he said. We can certainly conquer it. And we all need someone like that in our lives. Someone that's like, let's do it. Let's go for it. Amen. But the other men who had explored the land with him disagreed. We can't go up against them. It's kind of like when you're facing someone, you're playing someone on the other team, and you look at them and they look intimidating. And they're like, wow, they look strong and they look fit. And then you start playing, you're like, these are a bunch of Gumbies. Like, we got this. This is easy. But they're looking at them and they're intimidated. They say, we can't go up against them. They are stronger than we are. So they spread this bad report about the land among the Israelites. And how many of us know bad reports spread quicker than any good report can? The land we traveled through and explored will devour. I mean, this is intense language. Anyone who goes to live there. All the people we saw were huge. We even saw, again, ready? We even saw giants there, the descendants of Anak. Next to them, we felt. So this is not just what they saw, but we now feel like grasshoppers. In other words, we feel small. And then their narrative extends beyond themselves, and they say, and that's what they thought too. How would they know what they thought? But they've created this narrative because of their feelings, and they say, they look at us and they think, you're small. You're like a grasshopper. All looking at the same thing, and yet Caleb and Joshua see the situation differently. Now, I don't know if you can notice, but I'm pregnant, okay? I'm pregnant and apparently hormonal. Just saying. Apparently it's a thing. But recently, it was my sister-in-law's birthday. And if you know my sister-in-law, you know she's my best friend. We work together. We've played on sporting teams together. We now live together. How about that? And we still love each other. Like, it's amazing. And it was her birthday recently, and I was working, and because we lived together, I got home and we had an event to go to that night. Now, prior to to pregnancy, you must know two things. Prior to pregnancy, I was not known as an emotional member of the female species. I'm just saying, that's not my reputation. Some have said emotionless. Some have said a little stone cold. Some have said rock solid. I think I still am. But I have not been known to be that emotional. Prior to pregnancy, I also believed a toasty was dinner. But now a toasty is no longer dinner, it's simply a snack, okay? So I get home and we've got an event to go to, and she's pregnant too, so we're pregnant together. How cool is that? And we both got girls on the way, but we have a toasty. We have a snack, okay? It was a snack, okay? So we go to the event and there's some nibblies there, like cucumber, carrots, so basically water. So we've had a snack and we've had water. And we were meeting my husband at the event, and he had known. I had told him, yeah, we had a toasty and all the things, and he's like, awesome. And then the event is ending, and I go to discuss dinner with him. And he says this thing to me. He says, I'll sort dinner. And I thought, wow, what a man. I thought, what a mighty good man. I thought, what a mighty fine man. I was like, that's my husband. He's sorting dinner. Now, when he told me that, do you know what I heard? I heard, hey, Brock and I, we're gonna consider and ponder what is Tiana's favorite food in the entire world. We're gonna go get that food. We're gonna retrieve that food. We're gonna come home and we're gonna have a feast together celebrating her birthday. That's what I heard. And you know what he was saying? Well, you guys have had dinner, so I'm gonna take the load off your plate. I'm just gonna sort it out for the people that haven't had dinner. But that's not what I heard, okay? So I'm in the car, I'm driving Tiana home, and I say to Tiana, the boys are organizing dinner. And she says, really? And I said, yeah. Yeah, they are. They're amazing. I said, they're thinking about what you want, what you like, and they're gonna get that thing. I'm like convinced. She's not convinced, but I am, because my husband told me I'm gonna sort dinner. So then I'm waiting at home, and he walks in with an Porto's bag. And I think she would want a Porto's? I mean, okay, if that's what she wants. But this Porto's bag looks small. And I go, wait a second. Did you get Tiana food? And he goes, I thought you ate. I said, we had a snack. And we had some water. Like, we haven't eaten tonight yet. It's her birthday. Like, she was supposed to have a nice dinner. I'm so angry, not gonna lie. I'm so angry. I go upstairs. You know what? She looks so unfazed, but that's not in my head, okay? I am angry. I am fazed by this. And then we're watching Top Gear, and I'm thinking we're watching a dude show on Tiana's birthday. Are you playing right now? I'm thinking, has anyone asked, does she want to watch this show? I'm getting so angry. But I'm silent, and I'm silently fuming. And then I go, you know what? I'm going downstairs, and I'm going to bed. So my husband gets into bed, and I say, babe, tonight we missed the mark. I said, tonight we had an opportunity to celebrate someone and we missed the mark. And I kid you not, I am sobbing in bed. Like, I can't believe we missed the mark. It was her birthday and I let her down. And he's like, what is going on? I wake up the next day and it was like I was watching a movie. I was like, was that me? Did that actually happen? All of that happened? You know what's amazing? There's 4 different people in that event, and everyone saw and had a different conclusion of what happened that night. I mean, everyone saw that thing, interpreted it differently. 4 different people and 4 very different perspectives. Why? Because we don't interpret reality through a blank slate. We don't interpret reality objectively. We interpret reality through our experiences, through our hurts, through our pains, through our hopes, and through our expectations. Turns out, how about this? My husband and his sister, they had birthdays canceled as kids. So they don't have the same kind of framework around birthdays. So we interpret things according to the way we have lived our lives. We don't just see reality, we filter it through a whole bunch of things. Now, I'm looking at Caleb, and I'm looking at Joshua, and I'm looking at these other guys, and I'm like, how do we have such a different picture of what they are looking at? In fact, they're not the only ones that have come across some giants. They're not the only ones, because King David, he'd come across a giant before. In fact, we got the scripture. It's in 1 Samuel. It says this: David left his things with the keeper of supplies. He ran to the battle lines and asked his brothers how they were. As he was talking with them, Goliath, the Philistine champion from Gath, stepped out from his lines and shouted his usual defiance, and David heard it. When the Israelites saw the man, they all fled from him in great fear. As soon as the Israelite army saw him, they began to run away in fright. Have you seen the giant? The men asked. He comes out each day to defy Israel. And you know David's response? Who is this pagan that dares defy the armies of the living God? Not the dead God, not the distant God, but the living God, the near God, the present God. Who is this chump? Like this guy, we're all afraid of this guy, and David takes one look at this giant, just like Caleb and Joshua, and he's like, we got this. Of course, and you and I, we like to read that story and go, I am David, and I am Caleb, and I am Joshua. And that's how I see the giants too. But if we're being honest, I think sometimes we look at the giants in the way the Israelites do. If we're being honest, we're a little on edge. We're living a little bit on edge. Like we're expecting bad things to happen. Some of you have a good day and you're like, I had one good day, waiting for the bad day. Remember, I had one good week, it's coming. The bad thing is around the corner. There's no way I can have 2 good weeks. You're expecting it. You live your life on the edge, like someone's out to get you and hurt you and take your position and take your role, or you're out to lose something and you're walking around on the edge. We do that from time to time. I mean, the Israelites, they're looking at this thing like, we've got everything to lose. They're on edge. And I realized something. You're often on edge when you can't see. You're often on edge when you're in darkness. You're often on edge when your vision is blurred. It's like walking through a train tunnel at night and you put the keys between your knuckles just in case. Just in case anything was to pop out and come and get you and hurt you. I remember driving in the Blue Mountains with a friend, and she had a horrible car. And it was her first car, horrible car. It usually is the same. And the defog thing didn't work. And so we're in Blue Mountains, it's raining. There's so much traffic and we can't see. We're on edge. So I have to get the towel, and every 3 seconds I need to wipe the windscreen just so we can drive. Why? Because when we can't see, we live on edge. You know the things that will blur your vision is, first thing is your insecurities. Will quickly blur your vision. Pastor Christy already talked about it in the offering. Talked about King Saul, because King Saul's looking at the same giant David's looking at. And his response is not the same. In fact, King Saul, we know him to be an insecure guy, and his story quite tragic. And I thought it was when David entered the scene that he was insecure. It turns out, as I was reading his story this week, I go, wait a second. His insecurities started way, way back. In fact, when he was chosen to be king, do you know the way he sees himself, the way he talks about himself? He said, but I'm from the least important clan. The smallest tribe, like I'm a grasshopper, like I'm small. It can't be me. He sees himself as small. He goes into battle and he starts doing these weird things. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, why would he do that? There's this battle and he says, I saw my people scattering away from me. So he acted and did something foolish. He didn't wait on God's word. Why? Because he was scared people were walking away, leaving him. So what did he do? He tries to grasp for some control. He's insecure. One of the battles, he makes this really dumb, foolish promise. And he's like out there saying, if we do this, and it sounds good. It's kind of like someone buying a Ferrari to cover up the fact that they feel small. And so he's making this big promise. And he's like, this will make me look really good. But he looks like a fool. He's insecure. In fact, one verse says that he secured his grasp on the throne. I think, why would you need to secure your grasp on something that was given to you? It's like getting a present and going, it's mine. Yeah, I gave it to you. You don't need a grasp for it. You don't need to try and keep it. Yet Saul, he's insecure. And it makes him live on edge. These people in the Bible, they're looking and they see themselves as grasshoppers, and they've created this narrative. We're small. They're not scared of us. They're not intimidated by us. And so their narrative extends to what they believe people think about them. And I thought when it came to insecurities, when you became an adult, they would just go away. That's what I thought. I thought you just didn't care when you got old enough and none of it mattered anymore. But the truth is, the insecurities that aren't addressed, they just bleed out in different ways. If we're being honest, we're bleeding, some of us. And you can see how you're bleeding and how you're grasping for control. And if you look at that tight fist of yours, you're bleeding. You're insecure. It doesn't make you horrible, it makes you human. You're bleeding, haven't you seen it? The way you're trying to accumulate all this stuff because of the way you view yourself. Someone said something, you weren't enough, so you're like, I'll prove them wrong. And you're accumulating accolades and achievements and stuff, and you're bleeding. Insecure. I can see it, you can see it in the way you respond to situations. You're bleeding. They weren't trying to hurt you or harm you, yet you read their tone as they were out to get you. You're bleeding. You're insecure. And insecurities will blur your vision. You know what else will blur your vision? Forgetfulness. One thing the Israelites always struggled with is they just forgot. It sounds pretty simple, but they always forgot the victories they'd won. They'd forgot that God had already freed them from slavery. That he'd freed them from some pretty hectic stuff. So when they're looking at these giants, Caleb and Joshua are like, we got this. Yet the others, they forgot. You know who else forgot? King Saul and the whole army. But David knew something. Oh, wait a second, I haven't forgotten something, because I know my God helped me when there was a bear. I know my God helped me when there was a lion. I know my God dealt with those things before, and I haven't forgotten about those victories, and so I have confidence in the next. I haven't forgotten it. It's Israelites' biggest issue. And you know what's interesting? The Philistines remember what Israel forgot. They remembered God's victories. They were scared of the Israelites. The enemy doesn't forget your victories, but why do we? I mean, the enemy's afraid of your victories. He's afraid of the victory that happened on the cross. He's afraid of the resurrected, living Jesus. He's afraid, and yet sometimes we forget that he didn't just die, but he is still alive. We forget. The enemy never forgot. And it starts to blur our vision. And we're still on edge. The other thing that blurs our vision are our fears. Driven by fears. Sometimes We don't think we're afraid because it's disguised as safe. We think we're just being mature and having a safe mindset. We're actually just driven by fear. We schedule so much in, we fill our lives with so much stuff as we're escaping the injuries along the way. We're driven by fears. I don't want to end up like that. I don't want to look like that. I don't want to have nothing left. We're driven by fear. Fear of rejection, fear of loss, fear of financial loss, fear of death. They're looking at this giant and they're afraid. They're looking at this giant and they're running. They're looking at this giant and they think this is the end game. It's all over. They're looking at this problem and believing they're nothing. They're driven by fear, which sometimes we all can be. You see it. We see it in the way we respond. We're driven by fear. And I saw something so interesting. Because here are these people completely afraid despite a living God. And God's response to them is, how long will you treat me with contempt? He goes on to say, will you never believe me? Have you forgotten the miraculous signs I've done? And I thought, God, no, I'm sorry, you missed it. They lack self-belief. They just don't believe in themselves. It's how they see themselves. No, we've missed it. Because how you view God is reflected in how you see yourself, and is reflected in how you see your circumstance, and is reflected in how you interpret giants. So he says, will they never believe me? He takes it personally. God looks at your belief and takes it personally. I heard this thing this week. Every worry is a vote of no confidence in God. Every worry, a vote of no confidence in God. And I've discovered this truth, that it's not just whether, but we believe he's real. That's one thing, and that's amazing. I believe he is real. But it's what we believe about God that shapes the way we live. It's what we believe about God that shapes the way we see ourselves. It's what we believe about God that shapes our healing. It's what we believe about God that helps us interpret the giants. It's what we believe about God. Because some of you believe he's real, but like the Israelites, you think he's distant. You've forgotten his victories. You think your fears are bigger than his might. Some of you believe in God, but you don't believe he's healer, or you don't believe he's redeemer. Some of you believe certain characteristics about God, and you believe them, but you negate others to help yourself believe them. You don't need to do that. You don't have to accept his mercy at the expense of justice. They're both together. We don't have to accept that he is truthful and he is the epitome of truth to accept his grace. They're both together. But when we can't see the picture of Jesus, when we miss just how near he is, when we miss that he is living and close, when we miss that he is deliverer, we will still live in fear. If we just believe he's real. I believe he's real, but I believe he's close. And I believe he's near. And I believe kingdom isn't just coming as a future tense thing to happen. I believe kingdom is coming right now. Kingdom is drawing near. And as we see Jesus, we see his light. And by his light, we see everything else. You see, my dad growing up used to do this thing. And every time I walk out of school and have my backpack, I remember as a kindergarten student, my backpack is about half my body. And he'd stand at the fence. When I walked out, he would grab my backpack and he'd put it on his shoulders. I'm like, nice, that's a beautiful thing to do. And then I was getting a bit older. I'm almost in high school, like really, we're getting old. And I'm walking outside, and my dad didn't always pick us up, but when he did, he would park the car, get out of his car, make himself visible, and as soon as I stepped outside that fence, he would grab the backpack and put it on his back. I'm like, okay, cool. But then I was in high school, and now I'm like, the bag is getting heavier, the books are getting heavier, more knowledge is being accumulated, and I'm like, I got this. It's all good, but I remember my dad picking me up this one day, and I'm thinking, I am more than capable. But here he is, he parked the car, he stood out in a place I could see him, and as soon as he saw me, he took my bag as a high school student, and he put it on his back. I thought, do we still need to do that? Then I'm in uni, and he happened to work right next to my uni. So on a Thursday, we would travel down together. And at the end of a big, long day at uni, I remember walking down, and he told me where to meet him, and he parked the car, and he got out, and he positioned himself in a place to be seen. And when he saw me, without a word, he grabbed my backpack and put it on his back. You know what it taught me? He was close. He was visible. He was willing to hold what I had been carrying. You've been carrying your fears. You've been carrying your insecurities. You've been carrying the forgetfulness. You've been trying to deal with it on your own. It's gotten heavy. It's become a burden. And you think it's childish to give it to God. There's a difference. It's not childish faith. It's childlike faith that we're called to have. And when God is saying, let me take the bag from your back, we should let him take it, because he holds the keys, and he is stronger, and he is mighty, and he is our deliverer. Some of you think he's out to get you. Something bad's about to happen. What if he was waiting to care for you? What if he was positioned in a place where you don't have to guess that he's there? Is he near? Is he near? You live, I got to get close to God. I don't know if he'll show up today. No, he's right there. And he's positioned himself in a space and place you can see him, and you can find him, and you can locate him. He's not just waiting at a distance, waiting for you to find your way all the way to him. No, he comes out of the car, and he stands in a place. And those things you are carrying, he takes off your back and carries it for you. What do you believe about God? It will shape the way you see yourself. Because here's the thing, when you let him take the bag, it's like your shoulders can go back. It's like your head can be lifted high. It's a different way of interpreting giants. Do we interpret reality through our experiences? Yeah, sure. Through our fears? Yeah. Do we interpret reality through our pains and our hopes? Yeah, but what if there was another way? What if we interpreted reality and the giants in our life through Jesus, through his victory, through his victory on the cross, through his redeeming spirit? What if we saw him as he truly was? What if we saw him in his fullness and we go, it's too simple, it's too easy, but let me tell you, just gaze long enough. And don't you tell me that won't change the way you see yourself. Gaze long enough, and don't you tell me that won't change the way you see your circumstance. Just look a little longer. You see, the book of Revelations, it is known as the revelation of Jesus Christ, the picture of who Jesus is. And John gets this picture, and we'll read it together. John gets this picture, and he says this: I turned around to see the voice that was speaking to me. And when I turned, I saw 7 gold lampstands. And among the lampstands was someone like a son of man, dressed in a robe, reaching down to his feet, with a golden sash around his chest. The hair on his head was white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were like blazing fire. They are both pure and purifying. His feet were like bronze glowing in a furnace. They weren't clay. They weren't made of something that would simply be moved by wind and rain and giants. No, these are made of bronze. And his voice was like the sound of rushing waters. And even though you've got giants taunting you, sowing lies, telling you things that aren't truth, his voice is like the sound of rushing waters, and it drowns the empty rhetoric of the enemy. In his right hand he held 7 stars, and coming out of his mouth was a sharp, double-edged sword, the truth that can set us free. His face was like the sun shining in all its brilliance. When I saw him, I fell at his feet as if I were dead. But he laid his right hand on me and said, "Don't be afraid. I'm the first and the last. I'm the living one. I died, but look, I am alive. I am the living God. I am alive forever and ever, and I hold the keys of death and the grave." Don't you see it? He is victorious. Don't you see it? That is your mandate too. Don't you see it? He holds the keys of your fear, the fear of death, the fear of whatever it is. He holds the keys, and he's bigger than that, and his voice is louder than the taunts of the enemies. And if we would gaze long enough into his face, which shines upon us, we would see ourselves differently. We would interpret the giants differently.